we go to a man that has a truly remarkable history. So he has been a hacker since he was 14 years old, and I learned that his parents didn't know about that for 20 years after that. I'm not exactly sure if it was took him 20 years to gain up the courage to tell his parents what he's really doing than just this kind of computer thing with programming and so on. And he has a very remarkable background, but the best way to introduce you to it, he's brought a small video about himself. So I'd ask our AC team to please play that, because there's no better way to learn about it than the background that he presented himself.
You have nothing left but destruction, but destruction, but destruction, but destruction, but destruction. You have nothing left but destruction, but destruction, but destruction, but destruction, but destruction.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Ralph Echemendia is a world-renowned cybersecurity expert, known internationally by his alter ego, the Ethical Hacker. For over 20 years, Ralph has delivered training on hacking and other security information to corporations including Google, Microsoft, Intel, and NASA. Ralph took his talents to Hollywood and has worked with award-winning director Oliver Stone on films such as Savages and Snowden. He has also worked on other projects, such as the film Nerd, and award-winning TV series Mr. Robot. Welcome on stage, the Ethical Hacker.
Check. All right. Okay.
Okay. Please welcome Ralph on stage. Thank you so much for joining us in Cluj.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you, man.
Thank you very much. All right. So very happy to be here and honored. So thank you. And let's give a round of applause to these guys who've organized this, and production crew and everybody else, because they never get that. So thank you, guys. So I have been computer hacking since I was 15 years old, 14, 15. And in all this time now, about 27 years professionally, I can tell you that how safe do you think we are? Anybody? Anybody here ever experienced something on a computer, thought they may have gotten hacked, a virus, or anything like that? Anybody? Yeah? Okay, so how safe do you think we are these days with all the technology that we have? As you can imagine, we're not very safe. Okay, we have more and more, and we depend more and more on computers. You know, most people, if I asked you what is the opposite to the word virtual, the opposite word is physical. But in today's world, we can't even live in the physical without the virtual, without the digital space. So it's really quite an issue. And so I always get the hacking and hackers perception of what people think hackers are and hackers do. So let's start there. Let's start with hackers, so we're clear on who a hacker is and what a hacker is. So who are hackers? This is one of the ways I like to explain it, is that you have 4 different kinds of people in the world. You know, everyone in the world is made out of one of these types here. Okay, so you're neither someone who knows and does things with that knowledge. You're neither somebody who knows but doesn't do anything with your knowledge. There's people who don't know, but they still do, even without knowing anything about that. And then there's people who don't know and they don't do anything, okay? Everybody in the world is one of these types of people. And hackers are made up of the 2 types that you see here, people who know about things and they do things with that knowledge. And then there's people who don't know about things, but still do something with that knowledge. So, in fact, if you look up the word hacker in the dictionary, you're going to see that on one side it says it's an expert at programming and solving problems or making problems. And on the other side it says a person who engages in a skill or an activity without any knowledge or talent. So we are, as we all are in humanity, a bit of an oxymoron. And so hackers start by no knowledge of something. They know the thing that hackers do very well is they learn how to learn about something very, very quickly. And in a very short period of time, they can go very deeply into a subject, an application, programming language, a database, whatever it is. And basically, once they know enough about it, you often find problems in the way that they're being used. So these guys up here, I'm sure you've seen them in the movies before. All right, these guys, especially the ones with a hoodie on and the mask, are not hackers, but that's what we're portrayed as in Hollywood for the most part. Mr. Robot was probably the closest, even though he still wears a hoodie. But for the most part, this is not what hackers look like. You don't need a mask to hack because you're on a computer. Nobody's actually seeing you, so I'm not sure what the mask is all about. But the motive for hacking has changed since the days that I got started. It used to be a matter of curiosity more than anything else. And then it became, you know, there was in the early days, there was like fame. You wanted to be known for doing that hack. And so you had a pseudonym, a handle, a different name, and you would hack something, and you would then go online and tell people. Unlike most other crimes where in the real world, in the physical world, we would never go and commit a crime and then tell people that we were the ones that committed it. In the early days, it was even questionable whether or not this was a crime. So fame and notoriety was the second motive. And then there was revenge, of course. Some of the earliest backdoor programs and Trojans were actually built by students in college who may have gotten into a fight with their girlfriend and wanted to hack all her friends. And so those were the early days. So revenge was in there. And now we see all of this, by the way, industrial espionage has existed in my world for a very long time. People think that that's something that only happens in movies, but no, it's real. And now we have all kinds of politically motivated hacking going on. So the motives have now become about one thing. Whether it's about any of these things anymore, it's really about 99% money. Now there's ways to monetize hacking, criminal in the cyber criminal side of things, in ways that you quite didn't have before. You know, if somebody was to pay someone to illegally hack them, back in the day you still were dealing with money. And now we have cryptocurrency and all kinds of different things, the dark web. It's a whole different world, and it's all motivated by money. So these are the motives. And beyond the motives, we now have to think about the kind of numbers involved in today's world. We have so many more people, massive, massive, massive global number of devices. And over 1,000 people, this is just some of the statistics, get hacked in one day. So this is over a minute, not over a day, so every minute. And I've been talking to you guys for just a few minutes. Several thousand people have been hacked as a result of just how much activity there is in this world. Another interesting number is the cost of hacking. The average cost of a breach is around $2 million, between $2 and $3 million for when a major organization gets hacked. That's the cost of incident response and legal. It is estimated, some people are saying that we're going to reach $1 trillion in annual costs of cybersecurity, so due to these breaches. Some other interesting issues here with cybersecurity is scarcity. In other words, how few people know about cybersecurity compared to the number of devices and number of people using technology today. It used to be that when I got started, if I was working at, say, at a hospital, for every 100 or 200 people who worked there, you had at least one IT guy to those number of systems. As you can imagine, this doesn't exist anymore. And in cybersecurity, we're talking about a massive, massive amount of need and not enough people to provide that need and that knowledge base. In fact, some numbers up here. Forbes in 2016 wrote that 1 million jobs in cybersecurity were unfilled that year. And that number is supposed to rise to the 3.5 million by 2021. That's how many jobs will be out there. That's how many millions of jobs will not get filled because there isn't enough people with cybersecurity knowledge. So this is a huge opportunity, okay, and will continue to be so. This is not going anywhere. So how safe are we? One of the big problems here is psychologically, we work very different when you put someone in front of a screen. The things we do change drastically to the things we would do in the real world. All right, so you would never do some of these things in the real world, but when you put someone in front of a computer, they will do things that they wouldn't have done before. But I always like to try to bring it back to the physical space, because when we talk about how safe are we in the way that we operate, let's look at that in the real world. I want you to take a look at this picture. This is a real world safety 101 right here. Now, I know that these straps, they can hold, I don't know, 1 ton or whatever it is. It's a very, very heavy piece of concrete. All right? And it could hold, look, they even got the yellow, the orange, don't come over here area. That's awesome. Safety, safety. And we even have, look, the drink is outside of the scope of the, now, there is safety being used here, but is this safe? You guys can say it. Not very. This is not very safe, and then this is what we do as human beings. So imagine now, I'm not even sure how this guy is going to put the window while he's on the other side of the window, while being held by a rope. Is this safe? Well, there's safety involved. We have a rope. But is this safe? Well, not very. And in the real world, we do this. We don't even understand safety that much. Look at this. Very important to put up your think safety signs while very unsafe. So this is what we do in the real world, in the physical space. So imagine, and this is things we can see and that we know are probably not very safe. So let me start off with a little, let me go back there. This is old school hacking. I'm going to take you back to the 1940s. No, actually, the 1990s.
What's the password?
Password?
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
No.
Do you have a dog?
Yeah, her name's Muffin.
Is a password Muffin?
Yes, it is. Come on in.
And that's how you hack most companies. That's also how you hack most people. And that is the problem, is that with all the technology that we have, the problem isn't the technology, even though we find a lot of flaws and vulnerabilities in the way the technology is built. But that technology is built by people. And the people are really the problem. Because online, I can make anything look real. Real. Now we have real news, fake news. Well, the whole of the internet can be fake or real if you want it to be. And that is the thing, perception. So here we are in Romania. I want to give it up to Romania. And you got the European Union now doing this whole GDPR thing. How many of you guys know what GDPR is? All right, okay, everybody knows what GDPR is, right? Okay, let me show you my interpretation of how Europe chooses to be better by implementing GDPR. Now, you do realize that no one has yet violated GDPR because no one yet has been audited for GDPR compliance. It's going to be very interesting what happens when somebody does, because the truth is, just like we're not very safe, not many of us are GDPR compliant. So, some GDPR for you.
Ever read the EU directive? Yes. Well, there's a passage I've got memorized. Sort of fits this occasion. GDPR 2517. The path of the righteous consumer is beset on all sides by the inequities of privacy and the tyranny of big data. Blessed is the processor who, in the name of the controller and goodwill, shepherds the weak through the valley of data collection, for he is truly his consumer's keeper and the finder of lost data. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to abuse or lose my data. And you will know my name is the EU when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
That's what happens right there. You violate GDPR and you will die. That is really what the GDPR is, at least right now, what everybody thinks. We're just going to die. Because we really don't understand. The truth is, most organizations, there is still always a way that data can be stolen or misused. In fact, your data is being misused most of the time in you don't realize it because you like the service you're being provided. So this is a great word. I hear it all the time. Innovation, innovation, innovation. And I love innovation. Don't get me wrong. I'm a tech nerd. So innovation is a thing I love. Now that being said, innovation tends to create opportunities for many companies. And you guys here, in fact, build a lot of technology. So it's because of these innovations that it creates opportunities. And these opportunities, again, we love opportunities in technology, right? So opportunity also tends to create risk or produce some sort of risk. Whenever we have an opportunity to use these innovations, there is risk involved with these innovations. Okay, following me here? Now, exploiting these opportunities or exploiting this risk that exists with any new innovation is going to produce what? It's going to create what? More innovation. Security innovations. The firewall didn't exist. That was something that happened in the early 90s, mid-90s with a company called Checkpoint as far as a commercial firewall. So these opportunities of exploiting risk produce an industry called the cybersecurity industry. And what I will tell you about that is I have been in that cybersecurity industry, and just like this, the firewall over there, and then the needle, and that's what we have. We now have two different worlds that are constantly feeding on each other based on innovation, right? Because somebody made a needle, which allows us to make clothes faster and better, and at the same time, that needle was exploited and used to do something else. And that cut into people, made them bleed, so we created a little firewall for it. This is going on in the cybersecurity space, and it is a multi-billion-dollar industry. We have the Internet of Everything, as I call it now, with 8.4 billion devices and counting, and with 5G around the corner, you're going to see a whole lot more than that. These numbers will multiply. We have artificial intelligence coming around the corner, which people think, wow. And, you know, I have a feeling about artificial intelligence. I love what we can do with machine learning. I don't call it artificial intelligence. It's really machine learning because for the most part, it's just automation 2.0. All we're doing is further automating at a higher layer. Computers still only process computer instruction. So every other thing that you do is a higher layer than that. So artificial intelligence also produces risk. And of course, we're going to exploit that risk and turn it into some other innovation. So we also have this issue of safety. And let me tell you about safety. Don't use the word security, use the word safety. That's really what it's about. Security is a component of safety. And one of the components of safety is also detection. You can only know if you're at risk for something if you can detect that there is a risk. So the first thing you have to do is actually know if there's a risk. Have a level of awareness about the potential risks involved. The average detection time of a hack right now is 206 days. So you've been hacked for 206 days on average before you know you've been hacked. So the first thing is we have to detect it to prevent it. Can't prevent it without detecting that threat. This is where AI and all this really are interesting because we can tell the difference between human behavior and app behavior. Your app is talking in your pocket right now. Most of you don't realize that, but your phone is live. It's alive and it's talking all the time. All those apps in the background are communicating and sending information. And there's a difference between you picking up the phone and the app doing what it normally does, programming-wise. And we can tell the difference. So if Facebook starts communicating at 3 in the morning while you're sleeping, your GPS coordinates, would you like that? Would you like that? Some of you may say yes, and some of you may say no. My point is you should have the option, and technology should be used in such a way where you have that option. Because the ethics of how this issue of security or safety when it comes to digital is one that really the motives are becoming, like I said, very clear. They're all financially motivated, but now who they come from, state-sponsored. There's still, of course, the ex-boyfriend and girlfriend, but these types of hacks and the values that we as humans hold to what this data means is very important here. So again, value and ethics and how we use this, because as a cybersecurity professional, I don't have to sell, I do have to sell you on why cybersecurity is important. As John Biggs mentioned earlier, I'm dealing with investors now in my new business, and it's hilarious. You guys, with all due respect, have no idea what you're talking about. In a matter of minutes, we can hack you in so many different ways. But in the meantime, I'm having to sell you on this without being able to do so because that would be illegal. In the meantime, the cybercrime community doesn't have to do that. They just hack. And then they figure out later how to monetize that data. You don't have to be important. You're just data. And data is valuable. Okay? So, I mean, just look at how many different things in the past few months I was able to pull out on things related to hacking, and especially hacking in mobile. Because how many mobile devices are there by comparison now to computers? It is continuing to grow and grow and grow, and computers are actually being used more and more only strictly for certain types of work. We do most of our work on a phone, which we don't even use like this anymore. We use like this. Try texting your friend in 5 seconds if you don't use your thumbs. See how that works out. That's how much we rely on this. So you guys feel free to download this. This is what I've been building for the last 2 years, and it's taking all this behavioral exploit, basically development, into how we do and detect that your phone is communicating in ways it shouldn't be communicating with. So it's called Seguru, basically like your security guru. And right now you can download it for free on the app stores and you can use it. And in July, we're gonna turn on subscriptions, but everyone who got it before will get it for a year. So go ahead and download it and give us feedback as we basically tune this more and more and more to be able to show you what apps are doing that you probably don't like that they're doing. And that you'll have the option to decide. So right now it just blocks all this stuff. Crypto mining, ad tracking, all these type of things that are really happening in the background of your computer, and you have no idea. And the whole thing has to do with timing of this. The timing and the way that we as human operate is very specific and very unique when it comes to determining threat, risk. You can easily determine this, again, just by using all these great innovations that we have, and again, not really exploiting risk, but giving you the knowledge, the awareness, in a very simplistic way to be able to make a decision on that. So, how safe are we now? Not very, but I will tell you that I am optimistic for the future. Hacking will not stop, but I am optimistic that we'll be able to make it better as we all become part of the hacking world in a way. The moment you understand your data better, the better you'll be with your data. And right now, we're clueless. So thank you very much. I am happy to be here and looking forward to seeing more of Romania. And maybe I'll show you a trick or two later.